Hi, this is the Drupal usability meeting for the 22nd of May 2018. And we discussed that we would cover a bunch of topics, including module descriptions on the extend page, look on the initiatives, landing pages, UIs for destructive operations, and the media library UX questions that are remaining. So based on who we have, I think we could start with the module descriptions. You want to start? And here.
The descriptions on the modules page are assigned to Roy.
Mm-hmm.
And if he isn't here yet, then...
So you would want to have Roy for that. Okay.
Yes.
That's a very good reason to not talk about it yet. All right. Okay, Angie, then. You pick which of your suggestions to start with.
I feel like both of them might be long and drawn out, but let's start with the initiatives pages. So I gave an update of this last time, and I kind of been farting around on a local development environment. Sorry, by that one I mean issue number 2922986, which is initiative landing pages for on Drupal.org. So I gave a little demo of this last time. It was on like a dev environment, and I got all crazy and like gone in and started making organic groups for things and all this kind of stuff. And then ran it past the DA people, particularly Tim. And Tim had a counter suggestion, which is using the landing page functionality that's built into Drupal.org that's kind of based off panels and panelizer and all this jazz. And so he went and made this section about strategic initiatives into one of these panelized thingies. And so I took Roy's suggestion for the landing page here, where did it go there? And kind of redid this overall page. And I've got recent news pulling tweets from D8 Initiatives, which is kind of like a new Twitter account that Gabor and I set up not too long ago that kind of pulls in stuff from all of the initiatives, ideally. I've got one of these boxes for each one of the initiatives that will link to its landing page once I've made it, which I don't have yet. So just FYI for that. But, you know, so kind of a quick overview. This is the strategic initiatives for Drupal 8, and here's all the things that we're working on. And then if you click on one of them, like documentation, you're taken to a page that looks a lot like the, like, say, under Why Drupal for Developers or the front page or something like that. So it's like a long, one of those. It's like a long scrolling page. So you have documentation initiative or whatever initiative, a screenshot that is indicative of what it's for. You have some overview text here, kind of what we're working on. These are the three main things. You can click here to go to all of their issues. This is everything tagged with their special issue tag. Who are we? We have a list of the people that you can contact. Come talk to us. Opens up the Slack channel that they're in. Here's their Twitter account. And how can I help? Kind of, you know, has the typical stuff of like, this is where we meet. This is when we meet, all that kind of stuff. So I started with this one only because Matthew Grasmick, the initiative lead of this one, he was going to go the route of making like a project for this. Like kind of we have like the configuration management 2 project page approach for this problem. So this is another way people are solving this right now, is they're creating a project which gives them an issue queue where they can then do things like file issues for meetings that they have, and then put the meeting minutes and give credit to everyone who attended and that kind of stuff. So the disadvantage of this approach, though, is that, you know, this has its own issue queue. Core has its own issue queue, so it's not always clear to people where they should put things. and then you have to know like the magic URL to get to this. So having an overview page that lists all of them out, and then having some consistency in how these all look and what the sections are and stuff like that felt like that was a good approach that didn't require any extra work on the DA's part and that kind of thing. What I don't like about this is if I go to customize this page, you can see that this thing is just like a series of essentially like panel panes. You know, it's like, it's not even a node. It's like a bunch of different panel panes. And then like you're sort of blocked into like, ideally, like who are we? There's a lot of empty space over here that could be filled with something. Like I was going to try and embed like the Drupal docs Twitter account here, but there's no like 2-column version of this. There's only a 3-column, and the 3 columns are very tiny. So it doesn't really fit that way. But if we think that this is a good direction, then it is fairly easy to just kind of bang a bunch of these out and then yay, that's done. The other disadvantage to this is it works for core, right? Like, so core has this section about strategic initiatives, and the DA has done whatever they need to do on their side to make this into an organic group, you know, so I can appoint other admins to this. Right now it's just kind of like has sent it from the DA, Gabor, myself, and then Grasmash, but I can add other people to it. So ideally, like all the initiative leads and stuff could be in here. And we could all edit anything under here, but this doesn't do really anything for the community initiatives like PHP Unit or Jacob Rockowitz and the web form module or this kind of thing, because those would not be included under here. And we don't want to water down this page by including every possible initiative that anyone could possibly be working on. So we still need a different solution for that, whether that's like maybe there's about, you know, community initiatives or something, and that's more open season, or whether it's on a one-off basis, people apply to get a landing page made for their thing. I'm not really sure what works best, but at least from the DA's perspective, they preferred this approach of kind of utilizing the existing tools for this. So I guess that's my spiel. I'd love comments, particularly on this page, because I kind of feel blocked making a bunch of other ones until I know this one's pretty solid. Because if this one is not solid, it's easy enough to change it. I'm not married to anything here. But what I don't want to do is make 13 of these and then have to change 13 things in 13 places, because that's less fun.
So, can we content typify them somehow?
That'd be nice, because then instead of this being like a series of call to actions, it would be like a field value that I'd be showing here. That definitely seems more sustainable. However, what I don't know is if that requires a deployment process on their behalf, and if so, excuse me, how doable that actually is. I also feel like we wanted some dynamic elements in this page, which are not currently reflected, but I don't remember. Or, well, I remember what they were. I'm not sure if it's good enough for the overview page to have that, or if we do want to like embed a timeline on here and issues and stuff like that. But it basically what Neil asked for is like, what do we actually want on these landing pages? Because they can make views for it if we give them kind of like the spec. So yeah, I think the content type is still an open question, because this is not my favorite thing. It would be impossible to, for example, build this page dynamically by pulling in the issue, the initiative title and the initiative short description in its status right now. This is all just, you know, edit.
Yeah, I think the listing page is fine as is, but the actual initiative pages, if there are dependency thing that Drupal.org does, makes it very hard to make changes in concert in different initiatives, or like add a new feature to them or something.
Yep, agreed. So I'll pull up. Right, can we content typeify initiatives, promote standard templating? Yep, that would be nice.
Hey, with those issues, if you can get a list of issues being pulled in and can use a tag, that might be a really dynamic way to like call out certain issues. Like the example would be like if initiative leads could tag easy issues and they could appear on the landing page, like get started, here are some easy issues to help out with, or here are some issues we're facing challenges with. It'd be kind of cool to be able to like segment a few types of issues and not have someone have to go to the landing page and make any updates. They just go tag them in the issue queues.
Yep, and then it automatically appears here. That, I agree, that would be the ideal thing.
I mean, almost if they did a block, it would be a block where we pick a tag.
Yep.
I also like it if they are structured the same way, so that you don't end up with kind of a big free text field where some initiative will give when they're meeting and others won't, or a third one will have it on yet another page. So that kind of structured, having the similar information on all of them, I quite like that.
Yeah, on the what's the name of that site? On the dev site I was playing with, I had fields for most things, structure. So I had like I don't think I broke it down quite to meeting schedule and stuff like that, but like, so short name, short description, what are we doing, who are we, how to help, issue tag, which if we had that as a field, we could build that view that you're talking about. Images, initiative roadmap, which is a link to where the roadmap is, communication channel, which is a link to the communication channel, donations, further resources, which is a series of links, and then supporting organizations. Being able to add supporting organizations is a big win to a content type, I think. But yeah, it's possible how to help instead of that. Right now, it is just a free form text field. It could be, you know, meeting schedules and stuff. I was kind of struggling with how to make that look good with the layout tools, but you know, that's kind of things that we can think. But yeah. So it'd be good to have like standard field structure. Cool. Other feedback items, topics?
I was just
Go.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, if you're struggling with like the content type and getting the right fields, if you're already using panels, you could make like a one-off panel pane, I think, without having like a content type with fields for every like section of the page. And then each initiative page could kind of decide what information they want in what order, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. So yeah, so currently this is exactly what you're talking about. It's like there's no structure here at all. These are all panel panes. So I'm putting documentation initiative here, that thing there. I can decide to put what are we working on first or second or third. Who are we? I get to lay this out exactly how I want, that kind of stuff. The disadvantage to that approach is that if every initiative can have full control over their own page, then every initiative page is going to look different. And then it becomes difficult from an end user to not know where to expect to look for information, you know? So maybe we can do some kind of hybrid model where it's like, this is always going to be there. It's like first, second, third. What is it? What does it look like? And what's the deal with that? And then, you know, this is going to be, I don't know of a way to structure this. So this is going to be free form either way. These links are, you know, like I can open up one of these and show you guys. It's like, you know, it's like you say, here's body 1, body 2, here's link 1, link 2. You can fill out different titles, point them wherever you want. So I know that was something that was brought up on the last time I showed this, is like that idea of having a donations link rather than hard coding the field as donations. It could be really beneficial to be like, well, this is join our open collective, or sponsor us on Patreon, or what, you know, like it allows people to you know, specify how they want that done.
Yep. And I mean, either way, regardless of what fields you have, they always have that override power. So if they really want to customize it, they could. We just probably would
If they
suggest.
have permission to this UI, yeah.
Oh, right, because you may just give them edit permission.
Exactly. So we could give them edit permissions to the content type, but not give them edit permissions to the page. And that would allow all of the pages to follow a similar template. And still allow the initiative teams to, you know, control the content that's inside.
That makes sense.
It's like a time-old problem, like with Drupal in general. It's like how much control do you give your content authors versus retaining as the site builder and that kind of thing.
And the content editors will always find a way to mess it up.
Oh yeah, they will. They'll put you know, whatever like.
Mm-hmm. But I think if the different sections are there, that will give a bit more structure to say, okay, yes, we need to put in somewhere where people can find out how to help or when to come and help.
Yeah, it was interesting filling this out with Matthew because documentation, well, the documentation team has existed since forever, but this documentation initiative where we're like redesigning the Drupal.org UX and having some like differentiation between official guides and community guides, like that is relatively new. So they're just barely getting off the ground and starting to meet and stuff like that. And so filling this out was useful with him because he was like, oh yeah, I guess we should talk about who the people are who are helping, and it's these people. And yeah, I guess we should talk about like we don't have a schedule yet, but I'll put that up there, and then we'll make sure we have, you know. So it's great because it's forcing some of these conversations, these thinking processes to happen by even having this stuff in the template. So yeah, I agree. That's been a useful.
But does that mean you want to be there every time there is a new initiative and go through to make sure that all of these fields are filled in?
I mean, if we're only talking about the core initiatives, then yeah, that's
okay.
easy, because there's like whatever, there's 13 of them, or I don't know how many, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8.
Then that sounds workable.
Yeah, so that's workable for this. What it is not workable for at all is if we wanted to open this up to any community initiative. That part is not very workable. And even with 13 or 14 of them, it's still going to be challenging to keep them all in sync with one another when they're not totally unstructured content like this. Because I can imagine that after I've done like 4 of these, I'll probably find a better way to present the information and then forget to do it on one of them, or, you know, like that kind of thing. It's like, it's not ideal. But it was kind of going for like, looks good and has the stuff on it that it needs on it, and doesn't require the DA to do any work. So that was pretty cool. But I think it is worth the conversation with them about whether or not we can content typify this a little bit, because if we could, that would be I feel like that would be a happy middle ground where I don't think content types should require any deployment jazz at all. But I'm not sure, because I don't know panels that well, but like when I go in here, you know, and I like, whatever, add a piece of content, there's not really a spot for fields at all. There's like some views that are specific to Drupal.org. This CTA, call to action, is what we're directed to do. But it's very limited, like what they've exposed here. So it would also require probably some configuration changes on their end to give us more access to more stuff. But anyway.
So my things are just more call to I'm all about call to actions, icons. Yep. So if you're calling out Twitter, it's nice to have a Twitter icon. I understand that might be making more work for someone, but it's worth talking about it. Even the fact that the conversations are happening on Slack, having a Slack icon is inviting to people who are comfortable with Slack. Also at the top, video support. And these are all, you know, like, and maybe video is extreme, but even a carousel where someone could show different pages or phases of the initiative. Because some of these initiatives have a lot of, you know, like workflow specifically, where there's a lot going on where you can't really show a screenshot that explains workflow. Exactly. It's multiple screenshots. Because the goal is to entice people to get involved. So that's I would argue if it's only 12 pages, going heavier on the multimedia at the top or making it available to people who are willing to do it could make a big difference.
Yep, that's a really, really good good point. demo.
And I wish Drupal.org supported videos all over the place, but I understand why we can't.
But for something like this, it should be possible. I mean, because, whoops, not that. Wrong edit button. This edit button. And then this edit button. I mean, all this is just HTML. And I have super cow powers, so like I can easily embed a video here. That's not hard to do at all. So that should be possible.
And then the only other thing about enticing people is, I mean, you saw that I reworked the web form page and I started putting profile pictures up because I just reached a point where this is how you get people to get involved. You show a picture because then you can, I didn't do it, but it's very tempting to add like a, you know, an empty profile picture and saying you could be one of these people getting involved in this project. It's just much more visually enticing to, you know, also says that people are writing the code, not companies.
I also like what you've done here with explaining who the people are. You know, like that's really nice.
Yeah, I know it can get cluttered, so it's like I'm not sure on those initiative pages, but it's something like I hope we, you know, keep thinking about it a little bit. And I just put this up like 2 days ago, so. Yeah,
I think it's awesome though. And you basically did this. This did not require super cow powers, right? Like this is just you're reading.
It required reading the blue cheese theme for 2 hours.
Yeah, okay. But
it was a lot.
Like as long as you use the right, like I'll show you work. But as long as you use the right like divs and stuff like that, or table classes, or I guess that's what it was more.
There's some hackiness, but it work. You know, it's manageable.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, you know, for a project lead, you're like, okay, I'll manage this. If it breaks, I'll fix it.
Yep.
The only other thing is I did do those tweets at the top, and I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like with initiatives, it's a nice idea to, if they want to do something like tweet, come support this module, or like with the out of the box initiative. Yeah, those tweet call outs. And that's something the DA is doing. And like for out of box, they could be like, hey, check this out. Tweet that out of the box is now testable or it's marked as experimental. Like those are, it gets people more involved.
I see what you mean about the icon there, because I did not at all get that was a thing that I could click on and then like tweet it out to my followers.
No problem. My homework, I'm gonna go add the icon.
I
can pack that in.
It looked like, oh, okay, that's some kind of a call out thing. Yay, you know. Like,
no, I think it'll work. I think I can add a little tiny icon.
But yeah, cool. Yeah, so I think in absence of having a structured way of dealing with this is what's going to happen is you know, different project maintainers or initiative leads or whatever are going to find ways of doing stuff like this on their own, which is great. But if we do want consistency in how all of these things are done, then we need to give people the tools for that.
And guidelines. I mean, I mean, the thing that I was after is stackable containers. And explaining to people the order of, you know, first you have to, you know, introduce, like, coming up with the right hierarchy.
Yep. And Roy, I don't think Roy's on the call yet. Maybe he's not coming, I'm not sure. But Roy did do a lot of work in back in this issue on that hierarchy and trying to make sure it's like, this is the least amount of information you need to know to figure out what this is. Here's the next level. Here's the next level. And then here's like, if you're really committed, here's the last bit of information that you want, you know? So it was interesting because you said, well, this page is for people who want to get involved. It's like, well, this page is actually for many audiences. It's for the audiences like, what the hell is Drupal even doing with its life? You know, I haven't even used Drupal yet, but I want to know what it's, you know, doing, you know. And then there's people who are like, I use Drupal every day. I want to know what's coming down the pipe so that I, you know, have an idea of what's happening. So that's kind of who this is for. People who are committed to Drupal probably want to know a little bit more about what that entails. So that's what this section is for. If you're to the point where you're invested and you want to like reach out and talk to somebody about it, then you're down to here. And then if you're like, fuck yeah, I'm committed. This sounds great. I want to join in, you know, then you're down to here. So it's sort of like most amount of people to least amount of people, just being realistic. And so the hierarchy is structured that way. And I take no credit for that. I just copied what Roy did. So that was me. Anyway. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for the feedback, folks. So I think my takeaways then are, I mean, it sounds like there's some additional styling that could be done here. I'll look into what options, if any, there are for that. I think putting photos up instead of like links is definitely a huge improvement. I guess what I was getting blocked on is I didn't have styles to do that with, you know, and I guess I can just use table-based layouts and let the front enders yell at me and come up with a better approach. But, or maybe I can just copy what you did over here. Whoops, over here, because that looks pretty good actually. But yeah, I just needed that. And then I guess I kept hemming and hawing a bit because I was really worried about copy and pasting this 14 times, and then having to change it 14 times when I made, you know, adjustments to that. But I should probably just get over that and just do the work and then go from there. So, yeah, and then I guess I'll come back to the DA and find out about the ability to make this view. This view sounds like it would be useful. Oh, sorry, you probably can't see that window. The idea of a view that is a list of issues that from a certain issue tags is a great idea. And I think we could use that in a lot of different places. Like that could be a really useful, even just your dashboard view, you know, like if you had the ability to create a block here that instead of issues for Drupal core was issues tagged such and such, you know, and you had the ability to see the issues here and stuff. So, yeah, so I'll talk to them about that, and I'll also talk to them about the initiative content type and see if there's a way we can structure that while also using these tools, because I think that would be the best of both worlds if we could do that. So anyway, that's it from me. Thank you, everybody. And then I have another topic, but it's not pressing, so I think I'll stop the screen share, give control to somebody else, and if we have time at the end of the meeting, I can dig into that one. Otherwise, we can cover it next meeting instead.
Cool. Roy did not arrive in the meantime, so I guess we can move on to media.
Yeah. I don't really have anything new to screen share. It was more just discussing some of the feedback from earlier today, I think, or yesterday. I'm not sure. Yeah, the thing that's blocking me on the media library right now, beyond the like newer UX feedback, is Andrew brought up that the like select all button isn't like as accessible, I guess, as the checkbox, because it's hard to determine the current state of it, and then yeah, and the accessibility attribute I tried to add actually made it more confusing because it's not really a toggle button to select all media or not select them. But he's not on the call, so I don't really know what. I just asked him in the issue. I'll post in UX chat like what our next steps should be. So I'm kind of waiting on that, and I don't know if I should be the one to summarize the conversation from earlier, or if you want to, Christina.
However you want, I can do that if you want. I don't care. I can do that. Okay.
Okay.
So, yesterday I was talking with Laurie about this issue about media, and he gave me some feedback. And actually, he made me realize that there was a comment from WebChick that say that we actually were adding a lot of, not that way, but that we were adding a lot of things into the listing compared with WordPress, I think, Facebook, and remember which one else. And it was right, and I think it was a really important point of view, because we were actually creating a mix between a table and a gallery or something like that. So I thought that we were trying to fulfill 2 stories in this grid that we are doing, and that's why I tried to propose a simplified version for the grid, and then try to try to rethink about some things we were doing. And also it came up that maybe adding the table with the list of the several meta tags, like I don't know, the media type, the things like workflows or other metadata that would be really useful. And some of the things that we were mentioning, it was, for example, showing or not the extension of the media. And actually, it was compared with using the media type. And it was already discussed in the channel, but I think the main reasons were that not all media elements we are going to have extensions, and that probably we are going to have more meaningful media types than extensions can be. So it kind of made more sense to use the media type. So it's not a big difference from what we had. But on the proposal, I removed the media type and just left the title. The reason is simplifying the UI, having less elements. Another thing that I removed, I was explaining all this without having even an image to show you. Are you seeing the screen?
Not yet for me.
And now, well, because I was going to point some things in the design, and if you can't see it.
I can't see it still. I don't know.
I don't see it either.
Hi again.
Hi.
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 Yeah.
We can hear you. We cannot see your screen though.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Now we can.
Okay. Perfect. So we came from here, where we had the icon if it was a document, for example, the media type, the title, and the action for each item. And the proposal was moving to something with less information for each element. The idea was trying to simplify the UI and not having so many buttons, so many actions to do something, actually. And remove the media and the button mainly, and try to simplify some UI things like borders and so on. So one question will be if we actually remove the button, and it's something that we should discuss because it's more a proposal. Where should this title link to? To the edit form, or to the visualization of the element, the media element? Any idea? It was kind of discussed a little bit, but I don't recall any decision there. So Any idea here? If we read that.
Yeah, I never edit media. I'll just state that really. Like my take on when I upload assets is I upload it and that's it. It's canonical. I don't change the asset, or I rarely do. So to me, it should just go to the asset, not the edit.
Well, well, I have the cases the other way around that I quite often do need editing for the alt text and things like that.
But in
Well,
that
you do that when you first created it. That's I guess that's my once it's done.
No, and therefore I have cases where people need to basically go back to that. So if they would always have to go to the view first. So I can see the logic why there was a drop-down button where you could either view or edit.
So if you want to view it, why do you want to view it? Would it make more sense to just go directly to edit it? Where you also actually will be able maybe to view it if it's a video or
yeah, that was why I said view. It's a video.
Mm-hmm.
But
the user of the site wouldn't be actually looking at different media items here. This page is for the content editors, right?
Yes, but probably if you place that in a pop-up. Well, I don't remember the name we are calling it.
Yeah.
For example, in a node edit form, we will have a grid also, if it's for images or something like that. So
if you have it on a node edit form and people accidentally click on the link, they will be leaving the edit form. Is that correct?
Yeah, we in the open issue for the putting this inside a dialogue, we basically block all clicks that would have taken you off the page, and we warn the user about data loss. So that's kind of our
okay. Mm-hmm.
But I would be okay with disabling the link completely too. It's just users may add links we don't know about later. So
yeah, like having a link there and for it to be clicked and not doing anything, or even have just displaying a warning. By the way, we've had this link here, but it's not really a thing that you should click on.
Yeah, the pop-up is kind of old school, but it works okay in our testing. But we still don't know where the link should go, I guess, by default. Right now it does go to the view.
I think if it's on a page like this, which is for content creators, you usually go to, because you actually want to do something with it. So the edit form, I think, is the more important one to go to.
I agree with that.
Similar to when for content, the drop-down button usually also goes to actually edit something of the content. So I think these are pages for people that work with the media items, and not for people who look at the media items. So therefore, I would go to the edit form.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, the alternative would be keeping the drop button, which I know we don't want to do because it makes the item so big, or having another link to edit, like the pencil icon or just an edit button. I think those are the other alternatives.
So you're saying either adding an icon or that the title links to the edit form?
Yeah.
Or what about I'm now siding with the edit form concept, but you could go instead of an icon for the edit icon, you have the magnifying glass, which ideally would open up a modal preview. I know that creates a whole other can of worms, but the idea is you're not leaving, you just want to preview. The idea is you want to play the video. I'm looking at the video and thinking it that way.
But you're on the page because you're a content creator, I think.
But sometimes this is used for selection. Am I right? Like you're selecting assets to place on a node edit form.
Yes.
So the video, I know the scenario where you have 4 videos and they all have the same thumbnail. It happens frequently. Even what we're looking at has that same problem. You know, the same thumbnail for multiple items.
I wouldn't try to. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like when you use a digital asset manager, this is pretty common to have like a modal preview. I don't think we can do that in this first issue, but I think that's kind of expected functionality. It depends on the user, I think, and what systems they've used. Yeah.
So on the long term, you could have this grid view that links you to the edit form, but also has a kind of pop-up model thing to preview, like to see the picture in a higher resolution or to play the video. Would that be a long-term strategy? Sorry, was that confusing?
Yeah, I haven't.
Okay. So you basically can have 3 different actions on this page. One is to select it for something, which is this tick box in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
One is to go to it because you want to edit it. And the third thing you might want to do is to actually preview it, to decide whether you choose the right one, for example.
Yeah.
So those are 3 different things that people would want to do.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I think it's just, yeah, it's interesting when you start thinking about what the preview does. In the short term, I think it would have to link to the page, but maybe, yeah, long term, we want it to be a modal, or we want it to be more, I don't know, in place. So
Probably there are more actions, because if we start thinking on workflow, for example, you may want to unpublish several items, you maybe want to, I don't know, which are the options for workflow. Larry shared a table, several states, a list for that are available for workflow. So probably it's not that simple having just these 3 actions here, just the edit, the preview, and the select.
okay.
Yes, the other options would make sense to put them or hide them inside the select for the actions, and would make sense just to add 2 icons here. But adding some icons, it makes adding icons to all the views that we can have here.
And the icons still need words next to it, because otherwise you have an accessibility problem.
Needs to work, sorry?
The icons also at times need to be replaced with text, because otherwise you have an accessibility problem, and then it's getting full again.
Okay, well, I don't think that's a problem exactly.
Yeah.
So the thing is, what's the job to do in this page? I mean, if we just have images, it's really simple. But at the moment that we have other media types other than images, the thing it actually becomes much more complex. So maybe adding all this complexity would make sense to do that on the table list instead of having it on the media, on the grid list. So the main reason for what I'm saying that is, are users expecting just images here? Are we always going to show a lot of other media types, and then we should go for the table first with more information? I mean, I actually don't know.
yeah, one thing that might help for context is in the other issue to add the field widget, like where you can select media. The drop button isn't there, like intentionally, because it would just be complicated to like open the modal to add media and then you click edit on a media or something. So That's not there. The bulk operations aren't there. And the only things that show up in the grid are things that are relevant for the field. So if you just have an image media field, you only see images. So I think, like, when we look at this page, since it's an overview of every media, it's like kind of a headache, like trying to solve all these problems. But actually, for the people that see this page are admins, and the content editors who are just selecting media actually see a slightly different, more like concise page. So we kind of already have this like context switching of like, okay, we need a more simple grid or a more complex grid in the patches. So
if somebody would look at this page but only wants to see files, I basically have lots of gray fields with that same icon on it. Is that correct?
Yes, and sorry. One thing is like that those icons are generated by like it's called something like a source field, and it's like the preview thumbnail. So it could technically return like any sort of image. So if it could get a better representation of the file, like maybe a icon of the extension, that's possible. Just not in core. So.
But for example, if you have something like the organization that has lots of reports in PDF form, they would just all look the same. And I'm coming up with that because I'm currently building a site like that.
Yeah, you would have to rely on the media name, or you would have to use some contributed module that gave you a better icon, which I don't think exists.
Yeah, but contrib for PDFs and contrib, people are going to do screenshots. Someone will write a module to do screenshots of the PDF and put them in. I mean, as long as it's pluggable to swap out that thumbnail, that will become a contrib module because people are going to need it. I need it too, by the way.
But maybe just for listing documents, we don't need the grid. We need actually a list like showing here. So maybe we actually should discuss if it makes sense to have the table in the first MVP thing. I think someone said something like the list is actually there, just disabled. But I don't know the state of that.
Yeah. So
the advantage of a list, of course, is that it's more easy to customize. If a site builder, for example, thinks all of these images are so similar, or we need to add a certain category to it so that users know they're going to picking an image that belongs in a certain category, like only sports images or only politics images. With a table, that's of course much easier to just add another column in it that you could filter on.
Yeah, and in the view for the media library grid, you can add fields to it. So like the bulk operation drop button isn't hard coded; it's just a normal field, and you could add more. You can also configure the view mode for like how the preview looks. So you can change the, if there was some PDF formatter, you could do like a PDF preview formatter or something. But I think maybe like going back to the table, what we're discussing is that maybe administering media should just look different than selecting media. But I'm not sure if that's...
So that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I look at this and I'm like, you need both. That's like you have a tabbed UI that starts off with the list, the table view where it shows everything. It can only show like 20 items. When you get to the grid view, if a developer comes in, they can go in that grid view and be like, show me 100 items. Or they can, they'll be able to customize it and have it selectable how many items. And you could do a tabbed user interface where the first tab is this list view and the second tab is, it says list and grid. And you can even pass the filter parameters when someone's filtering to switch between the two. It's not a hard hook to write where you can pass, someone does a search and they're looking in this list view and they're like, I can't really see the assets, they're not big enough. And it would just flip, there'd be a tab to flip over to the grid view. I mean, they both serve purposes.
So I guess I actually want to add the table back either way because it's been brought up so many times and it's already in core, so we just have to add a tab, like a secondary tab or something. But
the local
the negative of doing this, of having it like default to the table, is now we're introducing like a new media library that's not the default experience for administering media.
I think if the first thing you see is the grid, and you can swap to the table because that works better with your workflow, I think that would be a good solution.
Yep.
I mean, the good part is people can customize it. That's important to emphasize if it's done right. Like they can decide the order of those tabs and which one's the default.
So by default, maybe it will make more sense to have the table and you can switch to the grid, or the opposite.
Yeah, we would have to decide which one's default. So I guess that would be the conversation, but I think we all agree that both should be available.
So we need to design.
I think if you use the grid first, it's the option with the more items, more condensed, and less options. So to me, that sounds like the first step. Well, the second step is the one with the table and the drop down and the more options.
Okay, makes sense.
I would prefer that too, because it would just have more impact since we're working so hard to deliver a new feature. If we're like, it's an optional thing in this other tab you have to click, I think it'll be more confusing. So.
Because it would mean if you go to the table, that's when you get the more hardcore looking admin look and more options. But the first one is the easy one where you can just on the picture and the title find things.
Yep.
Okay. So I don't have more things from this media thing. That's all. And also I think it's time. I'm gonna post all these things we mentioned and propose a design for the buttons for the grid versus table to switch from one to the other one.
And did we decide for sure for the MVP if the link should go to the edit or the view, or we should have view extra button for view or edit, or I'm not sure if we reached a conclusion.
I don't think we did.
Yeah, but that's okay. We can start by simplifying it and adding the table, and there's enough work there to think about more stuff, I think.
Okay. That was all for me.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I don't think Roy arrived in the meantime. On the remaining topics required Roy, and we are out of time.
Cool. Well, next week we have some stuff to talk about then.
Yeah.
Oh, so we'll be in Front End United, and I don't know if we're having this call, but we'll figure it out, I guess. Well, I guess, Gabor, you'll be here still.
I will be here.
Okay.
We can have this call.
I will be here as well.
Me too.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks.
Cool.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Wow.